Hey, hello, welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. We really appreciate having you on. We're gonna wait just a few minutes here for more people to hop in with us. But for those of you who are here, if you are here, I just want to know that you're here. If you're here, just type in the chat box, hey, we can hear you. The audio's good. We can see that you're here. Yeah, if you could just let us know in the chat box, maybe something you had for dinner tonight. Some of you might be sitting down in front of dinner, and that's great. But yeah, I'm kind of hungry. I'd love to know what you're eating. We'll wait a few moments and then get started here. So, oh, great, Cynthia, thanks for saying you're here and you can hear us. That's awesome. That's great, awesome. And as you guys are here tonight, some tips. Excellent salmon sandwich. Awesome, Cynthia. That sounds good. That sounds really good. If you're here tonight, a couple of tips about being on a webinar from our past experience. We try to do a couple of these webinars each month. And what I'm hearing is that to get the best bandwidth, to get the best webinar experience, you'll want to close down some of the other applications that are open on your computer, or maybe they're in your Chrome browser. You want to shut all those applications and windows down. One, that will help you with your bandwidth and your speed. And then second, it'll help you focus, concentrate on what you're going to learn tonight. And you're going to learn a lot of stuff from Abby tonight as we get into Women's Retirement Roadmap. A couple of other things. I always put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I don't ever want to be interrupted while we're having a presentation. And I know that you guys want to focus. That's why you're spending your time here with us tonight. So if you want to put your phone on Do Not Disturb or airplane mode, that's always advisable. I'm going to pull up the presentation slides here for us tonight. Maybe you could also, before we get in here tonight, I'd love to get some other feedback on like what you're hoping to learn tonight. Maybe you can type that in the chat with us as well. We have an agenda. We don't wing these things. We come in with an agenda. We have a presentation we'd love to show you. But if there are things that you have questions about, or maybe you're like, hey, I love if you talked a little bit more about this, then let us know. You can always type that in the chat box. And questions are always welcome. We love questions because as we see those come in the chat box, that helps a lot of other people who are kind of, maybe they don't have that question yet. They haven't gotten to that in their retirement journey. That question is going to help another person that's on the phone call tonight. So if you could do that, that'd be great too. We're also offering totally free complimentary call with us after the webinar is over. You can schedule this call using the button that we have at the top, and you can schedule a phone call with us. It's very simple, 15-minute phone call. This is a call for all those really specific questions you don't want to ask in the chat box, or you want to process what you learned from tonight, and you're kind of thinking, well, Tom and Abby said something that really stuck with me. I think I need to schedule a call for later. Then great, schedule that phone call for later. We've got 2 weeks that are open that we've made for the next couple of weeks here for people to book those phone calls with Abby to ask questions about whatever you have: taxes, Social Security, reverse mortgages, investments, or timelines. Am I really ready to retire? Could I retire? It's one of the questions that we've gotten before a lot with this webinar. People just starting their journey. Am I ready to get going? And speaking of getting going, I'd love to get going with our presentation. We are almost 5 after, and we've got some more people hopping on, which is great. Good to know. If you are here, again, just let us know that you are here. Type in the chat box, yeah, I can hear you. You sound good. If I don't sound good, I think someone described us as sounding like we have marbles in our mouth last time. I think it was the internet connection on their end. If you want to let us know, that's great. I don't want to sound like I've got marbles in my mouth Abby will never sound like that, but I don't want her to sound like that to you either. So if you could just let us know, that's great. Okay, great. Thanks, Denise. Thanks, Cheryl. Awesome. Good to know. So thanks for being here tonight. We really appreciate you guys showing up and taking some time here. Quick disclosures. We seriously, if we show you anything that is indicative of future performance, or we're doing an illustration and we're talking about future returns or things like that, past performance is never indicative of future returns. Like I say this on every webinar. And some of the things that we talk about tonight will be in relation to Social Security, or it's going to be in relation to taxes. And we know a lot about Social Security. We always want you to check that with your Social Security statement. And we know a lot about taxes, and we think about taxes differently than your CPA, but you still probably want to take any of our tax recommendations to your CPA. And if you don't have one, we do have one on our Paradigm team that would love to work with you. So again, any tax things, always want to run that, check that by a CPA. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Abby. And I'm going to shut my video down because my video tends to slow things on our phone calls. And again, Tom, Vic, if I didn't say it before, I'm an advisor here with Paradigm Money Management, and love helping people figure out the questions of how do I retire? When should I retire? I've been in the family business for many, many years. My folks were financial advisors specifically in this arena, helping pre-retirees develop a retirement income plan that they can rely on, 30, 40 years down the road. So that's a little bit about my history, but Abby's going to tell you about her, and she's going to talk a little bit about the firm and then get into our presentation here tonight. So without further ado, Abby, could you take it away?
Happily. Very nice to meet you, ladies, and we're so happy to meet you tonight. And we love this presentation. It's our favorite one that we do, all about specifically why retiring as women is different, and how there are different concerns and different obstacles, perhaps, that women face. And we are of the firm belief that there are not enough people talking specifically to women about how you might retire. And this is for women who are currently married, single women, divorced, widowed. There just are some things to take into consideration, and we're going to go into all those details today because that is really where we specialize. So we love this topic, and Tom's going to hang around and watch the chat. So feel free to put anything in the chat or even send him a direct message, and he would love to engage with you or ask me the questions so I can answer as well. So it's not just the two of us. We are married, as you probably know from our last name, Tom and Abby Vick. But we are a part of a team, and this is a sampling of our team. Our team's actually growing. We're in a couple states across the country now, which is really exciting. Paradigm Money Management is growing. And our team members have different specialties. So our specialty is working specifically with you and making sure that we are advocating for you, making sure that you have all the resources that you need. And the reason that we love these team members is because we know them so specifically, their specialties, how they've studied, and we've recruited them to be a part of our team. So Tom, go ahead and get the next slide. All right, so the thing that I always want to explain to start off the meeting, so you see our logo there in the middle, PM squared, Paradigm Money Management. We are a boutique investment firm. So I'm a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona, and like I mentioned, a couple of other states now. And the thing that makes us different as a boutique firm, and I don't use the word boutique because I want you to think expensive. That's definitely not what I want you to think. It's different as we're independent and we get to choose the different companies that we work with. So this is just a small sampling of companies that we can choose to work with and that we can choose to bring on for our clients. And some of these services might fit really well with you. Some of them might not, and we might have to go find some new resources. But as an independently managed firm, we can choose our partners. So I want that to come over loud and clear, and something that we are very proud to offer. And we've been in business for 2 years now, thriving and growing every year. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes, the really good stuff. I love this material. I think you're going to love it too. We've gotten a lot of great feedback over the past couple months doing this same presentation. And like I said before, there are certain risks and challenges about being a woman and how we've saved and how we invest and how we pull Social Security and how we need healthcare. So we're going to look at all those kinds of topics today, and you're going to glean some really important information. So this is a very important visual. I'm such a visual learner, so there's as many visual examples here as I possibly could pack in. And I think this is a really great one, especially to define the two very distinct phases of wealth management and in money management as a whole. There's a lot of advisors on the pre-retirement accumulation side, and they are really excited about helping you get big returns in your 401ks, big returns in your IRAs. They want to help you invest in the market. Let's grow your money. And they're really excited about those wealth building activities. So we call that the pre-retirement accumulation phase, right? You've probably heard it called a nest egg. We want to grow your nest egg as big as possible. And that's really where this is happening in this pre-retirement phase. Lots of advisors, lots of financial institutions on this side of the mountain. Then we hit this peak and we decide, I want to be someone who flicks a switch and turns into retirement. And now I have to live off of those assets, right? I want to be able to make the choice to not work again if I don't need to. And we call this the retirement or the distribution portion of of this whole cycle. And there's less of us on this side that really specialize in taking the assets that you've accumulated over the number of years and you've worked so hard to save all those years in your 401ks and in your savings accounts. But how do we really turn that into a sustainable retirement? And there are less of us on this side who really specialize in that. So we're going to talk about all the factors we go through with clients on this distribution phase. All right, so let's go into some statistics to start us off. So some 3 retirement realities. 49% of women fear ending up homeless. This one always breaks my heart whenever I have to say it out loud, but half of women fear ending up homeless. 90% of women believe they need to be more involved in financial strategies. That gives me some hope that women want to be more involved. That's fantastic. And the last one, 44% of women are widowed, single, or divorced. So there's a large percentage of women who don't have an option to pushing off the financial decisions to the opposite sex, right? They're really in control of these financial decisions for themselves. All right, here's a couple more. 12% of women are very confident in their ability to comfortably retire. Isn't that a strikingly low statistic that only 12% are very confident? And don't you think you would want to get to that place, right? Where you understood your money well enough, you understood the distribution side of that mountain, and you say, yeah, I'm feeling really good about flipping the switch towards retirement and knowing that I'm not going to have to go back and work again, right? What would it be like to feel very confident in that? 55% of women plan to retire after 65 or not at all, more than half. And finally, a third of women use a professional financial advisor. I think there's a lot of reasons we could really dive in deep. We're not going to talk about that specifically today, but about a third of women use a professional financial advisor. And so that means to me, 2/3 are asking help in their family, they're doing it themselves, and they're trying to make all these decisions when it can be really hard to have a significant picture of what your retirement would look like without having a professional has helped others do that in the past. All right, so I would love to hear some feedback in the chat. So if you could give me your answers to these questions, I would love to hear your perspective. So number 1, will more women or men age 65 and older end up in poverty? Give you some time to put it in the chat. Okay. Thank you. Number 2, what's the cost of women versus men's retirement healthcare for those 65 plus? So if you could guess, Whose is more? Who do you think has more healthcare costs, men or women? And do we have any idea what those numbers are and what any of the costs are for those over 65 plus? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some disagreement there. A couple years ago, I wouldn't have been sure. 600 per month. That's a great guess. All right. Who saves more for retirement, men or women? Specifically for retirement. So, mhm. Good. There's a little diversity in answers here. I love that. Fantastic. Let's go through them. Thank you so much for participating. So let's start with the first one. This statistic breaks my heart. Women 65 and older are 80% more likely to be impoverished than men of the same age. 80%. That's just a striking amount. Of those age 65 today, women need about $150,000 to cover retirement healthcare costs, and men need $135,000. So not a huge difference, but there's a little more for women, and there's a couple factors there, including women living longer. I think I saw recently twice as likely to experience dementia or Alzheimer's. That was a shocking statistic. Women save 43% less for retirement than men on average. So, and I think a lot of you are probably savers, because women are very typically savers. We do really well putting money in our savings account, right? So that's probably why, that the word save made you think women do more than men. But remember, men are typically earning more money than women, so they have more money from their monthly paychecks to be able to put away. And specifically, men are putting them in a retirement account, not in a bank savings account. So that's really where that difference is, if you could picture. But I know so many women that manage their day-to-day money so extraordinarily well, and they're saving, constantly putting in their savings account. But the next step of investing in a retirement account, that's where men outrank us. Okay, go right ahead. All right, so we are going to dive into Social Security as a topic first. If you have specific questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If you have very specific questions about your benefit in particular, I think that would be great. A very good reason to schedule a call. And like Tom said, totally free to schedule a call. We can answer whatever questions you want. No obligation from that phone call. We would love to hear any questions you have from our PowerPoint in particular. Okay, so optimizing your Social Security income. How can we maximize the amount that you're going to receive in Social Security? And here's really 4 things that we look at: eliminating zeros, inheriting your spouse's benefit, divorced widow survivor benefits, and the Social Security break-even point. So we're going to dive into each of those a little bit. So we're going to start with eliminating zeros. So we're going to start with Mrs. Jones. This is Mrs. Jones and how much money she has earned. This is earned income for Mrs. Jones every year from age 22 to 70. So I'm sure you all noticed there's a specific 8-year time period here where she had zero earnings, right? So it was her 30s. So maybe she was raising her children at this time, took some time off work. Women, of course, I'm sure you know this even from this example, are more likely to have zeros in their earning cycle than their male counterparts, right? We're more likely to stay home and take care of our kids. We're more likely to stay home and take care of other family members, parents, whatever else there is. So let's look at Mr. Jones's chart. And you can see he didn't have any gap of working, did he? He worked all the way through from 22 to 70. And if you know how Social Security is calculated, they take the 30 highest years of earned income from your entire working life. Even if they're scattered around, they take the 30 highest, and that's how they average what your Social Security benefit should be. So as you can see here, there might have been a couple years where Mrs. Jones had some zeros where Mr. Jones did not, and that's going to significantly affect her benefit. And you can see here the average annual difference in that chart on the right $12,000 annually that he's going to be making more than her because he didn't have any zeros to eliminate and she did. So one of the things that we can talk about with your Social Security benefit is if you are, let's say, in your 60s and making the most money you've ever made, and you know you have a couple zeros from your 30s or 40s, you might want to work a year or two extra if you can, if you're healthy, if you're in a good working situation, right? Because those 2 extra years are going to take out 2 of the zeros. So those are some strategies we can talk about, and just realize that, that does affect your benefit. The next thing we can look at is the widow benefit versus the divorcee benefit. There are a lot of details here. So again, if this is you, I would love to talk to you and make sure that you have all the details. I'm gonna go over them briefly. The widow benefit is really at age 60. So, about a year and a half ago, I worked with a client who was 48 and her husband committed suicide, and she does not have any Social Security benefit until she turns 60. So she has to wait those 12 years to receive his benefit. But starting at 60, you can have a reduced benefit, or you can have a full benefit at full retirement age. And that's the widow benefit. The divorcee benefit, we're not going to go into too many of these details here because there really is a lot under the divorcee benefit, but here's something I want to communicate loud and clear. If you are divorced and maybe you don't have an amicable relationship with your ex, you can still apply for your divorcee benefit, and your ex does not have to be involved in the process. So don't count yourself out of that benefit. Even if you don't have an amicable relationship, you can still go through the entire process. It doesn't affect his benefit. He won't even be notified that it's happening. You are entitled to that money if you meet these requirements, and we want to make sure that you get the full amount that you should be getting. So I want you to hear that loud and clear. Let me see if I'm employer. I'm reading the question, trying to determine how not to pay so much in tax diversity. Yeah, great question, Angela. I think we might need a phone call to talk about that if you wouldn't mind scheduling that. Thank you. Okay, Tom, go ahead to the next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this break-even point, because I'm sure you know that you receive your full Social Security benefit at your full retirement age. And for most of the clients that I see, that's either 66 or 67. And you can decide to take it. If you take it early, you're going to get a reduced benefit locked in for the rest of your life. If you wait till full retirement age, you'll get the full benefit. And if you delay till 70, you can get an even higher benefit locked in for the rest of your life. Now, I hear a lot of chatter around, maybe if I think I'm not going to live as long, I should take I should wait and take the higher benefit, or if I'm going to live longer, I need the lower benefit. There's a lot of opinions about this, but there's actual math behind that says what the break-even point is for you. And the break-even point is around 84. So if you're thinking, if you have longevity in your family, you're feeling pretty healthy right now, you think you're going to live past that age, it might make sense to delay to the 70 years old benefit, delaying it all the way to 70 and getting the maximum amount of Social Security you can, because you want to lock in that higher amount for as long as you can. If you can see that top, that top line, it's growing faster because we have the COLA increases every year. So we can run some of these scenarios if you would like, if you haven't filed Social Security already, to see, what your best option is. Of course, the break-even point is around when you think you might die, right? Which none of us knows. We don't have crystal balls, but we can make a little bit more of an educated decision around that for you, so you can get the maximum amount that you'd like. All right, go ahead, Tom. Okay, so this statistic, 61% of women will be responsible for their financial retirement. So if we're looking at the women that are in retirement now, 61% are unmarried. And I think the statistic is around 86% of women die single and 90% of men die married. That might be off a little bit, so I apologize, and I can look that up if you're interested. But the reason I bring that up is because, women are responsible to know their numbers, to know their financial retirement. I'm sure that's why you're here, right? Because you're interested in having this information and being able to make those decisions and feeling comfortable with how your money is being handled for the long term. We've had a lot of experience with people living a long time. My grandma is 100 years old. She's going to be 101 in 31 days. She will be 101. And she has lived 40 years in retirement. And if that was a scenario for you or any of our clients, what would that mean? How can we make sure that your money is going to last that long and take care of you? And so that's what we think about constantly when we're working with our clients. So here's some, a reminder about longevity. Men's average age that they live to is 77 and women is 82. So there's very high likelihood that you're going to outlive your male counterpart, or if you're married or if you have a partner. And 1 in 4 of the 65-year-olds who are 65 right now will live beyond age 90. 1 in 4, isn't that amazing? And 1 in 10 will live beyond age 95. And I'm sure you heard this a couple years back, that the person who's going to live to 120 is already alive, right? It might not be me and Tom, it might be our kids, but that person is already alive, and we're living longer and longer in retirement. That's for sure. So when we're thinking about how our economy is different, our society is different, Congress is different, we have a new president, there's so many things that are different. From maybe your parents' retirement to your retirement, how can we think about that? So this is one of the reasons we named our company Paradigm, because really we so firmly believe there needs to be a paradigm shift in our thinking around how we're planning for our future and how we're planning for our retirement. Because back to my grandma example, she is living purely off of her California state pension for being a public school teacher and her Social Security benefit. And she is this teeny nest egg that's been carrying her over the harder years where she has some more health concerns or something, right? And as you probably know, in our society, pensions are shrinking and shrinking. Private pensions that are at these large companies almost are non-existent anymore. The state pensions are underfunded. Social Security, they're already dipping into the trust fund of Social Security. So if Congress doesn't do something, I'm not sure how they're going to adjust that benefit, right? This is the reality we're stepping into. So that nest egg, the amount that we're funding our own retirement, is becoming more and more important. And of course, I'm sure you can assume that for mine and Tom's generation, that nest egg is almost all of the piece of the pie. So what does that mean long-term, making your money last throughout your retirement? All right, so a big factor in this is going to be taxes. And one of the reasons we talk so strongly about taxes is because we've had so many repeat experiences with clients who came in and said, I'm sure my taxes are going to be less in retirement than they were when I'm working, right? Do you have that opinion as well? Most people do when they come in our office is, I'm going to have less taxes in retirement than I do when I'm working. And then we run the numbers and we say, oh man, I actually have some bad news for you. Your taxes are really not decreasing that much. And so here's some reason, here are the reasons why. Oh, I always forget this quote's in here. Albert Einstein, the hardest thing to understand in the world is the income tax. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so one of the reasons that your taxes are probably not going to go down in retirement is because, number one, your Social Security benefit can be taxed, right? Especially if you make more than, the threshold is only $40,000 or $42,000 a year, including the Social Security benefit, then 85% of it is taxed. So that Social Security benefit is going to be taxed. If you have whatever's in your retirement accounts that you're going to be taking out of your 401k, taking out of your IRA, 457, pension, whatever you have, all that is pre-tax money. So when we're looking at, like this says here, the RMD rules, these required minimum distribution rules, there really is a lot of tax considerations when you're moving any money out of a retirement account. And the next thing to think about here is there, with the new Secure Act that's on this screen, there were some changes around how a spouse inherits an IRA. So before, there were more options for moving the account into your name and taking smaller payments, which means now you're having smaller tax payments. And they've taken out some of those options. And honestly, there's more of those coming down the pipeline from Congress. Is they are expecting to be paid out on taxes on all your 401ks and IRAs. And so they are considering increasing the tax on your retirement accounts because that's going to be a huge payday for them. And honestly, they need it. They've been printing money. They've been, creating new programs and giving money away. So that, I'm not politically trying to sway anyone in any direction by any means, but the reality is the debt is increasing and Social Security has a lot of demands and Medicare has a lot of demands. And how are they going to meet that? Probably by increasing income taxes. And that's one of the things that we have some control on. So if we go to the next slide, one of the things that we can do to preempt paying a lot of taxes in retirement is a Roth conversion. And you've probably heard of a Roth before. You might have even heard of a backdoor Roth, which sounds a little sketchy. I wish they wouldn't call it that. But all that means is there's two different types of retirement accounts. The most common retirement account is a pre-tax deferred account. So that means just like your 401k, I've been putting money into it every single year. The money that I put in is tax deductible in that year. It's a CPA's dream. Accountants love this, right? You're putting cash in and you're receiving a tax deduction in that year. You don't have to pay taxes until way later. Well, when we're doing retirement planning, from my perspective as your financial advisor, now I have to deal with how you're going to pay the taxes because you've been deferring for the last 20 or 30 years, right? So the second type of retirement account is called a Roth, and it's becoming more and more popular, and I'm very happy to hear that news. So what a Roth does is it's still under the retirement umbrella. It is still a retirement account, but you are paying taxes first. And then you're putting the money in the account and letting it grow after tax. You're letting it grow tax-free. So it's really an incredible tool. And accountants don't like it as much, to be honest, because you are paying taxes this year. Let's say in 2021 or 2020, you're paying the taxes. But all the years after, for the next 30 years, you're reaping the benefits of paying the taxes up front. So the analogy we like to use here is, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or would you rather pay taxes on the harvest, right? Because we can either grow your money in the stock market or with annuities or whatever your strategy is to grow your money. We can either grow it and everything that grows now needs to have taxes paid, or you can grow it after tax and now there's no taxes owed on the growth. That's the magic that the Roth can do. So the reason that I bring this up, especially now, is because Trump tax cuts, as beneficial as they might have been for you over the past couple of years, they're expiring in 2025, even if Congress does nothing. And we know that Congress is talking about increasing taxes anyways, but even if they did nothing, his tax cuts would go away in 2025. So as we're looking towards the future and we know these things are going to come down the pipe, we have a couple years perhaps to get your taxes in order so that in retirement, you don't have this huge bill every single time you pull money out of your account. So that's a little bit into the tax conversation and the strategy that we talk to people about. Okay, so now we're going to talk about healthcare. Very important topic, top of everyone's mind. What do you need to know about your healthcare in retirement? I'm not going to dive my toes into the Medicare conversation. I'm very happy to have that conversation one-on-one. So if you want to schedule a call to talk about that, if you have Medicare-related questions, I'm very happy to talk to you about that. We just didn't put that in this specific PowerPoint. The thing that I wanted to focus on, these big picture issues, is long-term care, right? And long-term care, if you're age 65 today, you have almost a 70% chance of needing some type of long-term care service in your remaining years. And you might need it from 1 to 3 years, right? It's not a quick turnaround of cash, like I'm going to visit the hospital for a month and be done. This is a 1 to 3 year stint that you might need some extra services and help. 15.2% of retirees 65 and older will spend $250,000 or more on their long-term care, right? And if you think about it, this is more likely to happen towards the end of your life. So I think people initially come into retirement like, during my earlier years when I'm really active, I might want to travel or spend a bunch of time with grandkids or get an RV and go around the United States, whatever your dream of retirement is. And they might think that their higher expenses are earlier in retirement. And as they get older, they might need less cash per year because they're not going around as much. They might not even be driving themselves, whatever that situation is. But long-term care really screws up that narrative, right? Because at the end of life, people spend six figures, at the end of life taking care of their loved ones as they're phasing out of this world, right? So that's something to keep in mind. In 2018, only 15 insurers offered long-term care insurance. The insurance industry has changed a lot around long-term care and what they can offer and how they offer it and how to reduce fees. But the reality is it is a pretty expensive tool for them as well. So it's really leaned down the industry. The average annual premium for a long-term care policy was $34.90 in 2018. So that's about, if you're thinking in the price range, like what can I expect even with long-term care? Because it seems like such a large amount that I might need. This is in that range about, 3 years ago. Okay. We always think this is eye-opening for retirees, right? If you want to retire at 62 and you live to 92, you are spending a third of your life in retirement. I mean, back to my grandma's example, right? She's turning 101. She has been retired for 40 years. She has spent 40% of her life in retirement. I mean, it's just amazing with how much the world has changed. Very few people initially were able to be retired at all, right? I mean, retirement is a pretty new concept in the history of the world. And now people are spending 33% of their time in retirement. It's amazing. Okay, so I love this section. We have a little story about one of our clients and how her retirement has really happened. So one of our clients, her name is Rochelle. I actually met her husband first. Her husband's name is John, and he came to one of our webinars just like this, or to a workshop, and he came to a Medicare workshop. He was very interested in learning about Medicare from us. And we established a great relationship, and he brought his wife to our first meeting, and we got to meet Rochelle, and he was making multiple six figures at his job. He was a very successful man, high up in a large corporation, receiving stock options and 401ks and fancy paid vacations and the whole thing. He was really living the life at the time. And really, they walk in the door and you're like, this is an ideal client, right? They're coming with lots of money. He's living the life. What can I do for you? And then he tells me he has end-stage renal disease and he's not sure how much longer he's going to live. He was 65 at the time. His wife was 55. So we just start our relationship. He brings in all documentation. He shows me where his accounts are, and we start discussing what they would like to do, what their retirement's going to look like. But really, this conversation was very unconventional because he had such limited time left, and we were really focused on making Rochelle's life wonderful and comfy because we knew he didn't have very much time left. But the reality was their accounts were everywhere and they didn't know where they all were and they didn't know why they were invested in certain ways. And they had some insurance over here and they had some investments over here and a 401k. And I'm not even sure if I'm paying for life insurance anymore. And I have a couple properties and oh man, it was really a mess. And before we could even get started, John passed away. And Rochelle calls me almost immediately and she says, Abby, we didn't even get started. What do I do? I don't even know. I don't know how to move anything into my name. I don't know where anything is. I am very happy to say it's been a little over a year that we've been working together. But I want to be honest and say that it took a full year to get her accounts organized, to go through the probate process, to move everything into her name, to find her accounts, to label her accounts, to make decisions around where her money should go and what makes the most sense to her. And one of the most heartbreaking things is she didn't receive the life insurance benefit because he wasn't a full-time employee at the time. He was on long-term disability. So they took him out of the life insurance that he had paid into for the last decade. So she didn't have a lot of cash to work with. So the reason I tell you this story is not because Rochelle's doing very poorly. She's in a great place now, and I'm really excited about the work that we've done over the last year together. But I never realized coming into this business several years ago that organization, getting financially organized, was so important, and how critical it is to those people who are left behind. And the reality is most of the people left behind are women. Most of the people inheriting the money are women. And so I bring this up in this conversation, in this PowerPoint, in this webinar, because this is to your benefit, to know where everything is, to know how it works, to know what the goals are, and to feel like you are, organized and profitable. So I have these questions. Even if you want to take out your phone and snap a picture of this page, that might be really beneficial for you, or you can scribble these all down. But this is a great place to start when you're thinking about getting financially organized. Where are your accounts now, right? Logins, passwords, credentials. Does anyone know that except for in your head? Is all that information stored here? Because if it is, whoever your beneficiaries are, they have to know where your accounts are. I started my career at Charles Schwab, and the only way that we knew how to get that the account owner died and to give the funds to the beneficiary was if the beneficiary called in and sent us a death certificate. We weren't proactively getting in touch with the beneficiaries and making everything okay. It's really a proactive process on the beneficiary's side, right? Okay, how are you being taxed on these accounts? Are you leaving a huge tax bill for whoever inherits your money, or are you going to get left a huge tax bill because you're going to inherit some money from somebody? How will you be taxed if you withdraw the money, right? So is there a tax if it moves into my name, or is there a tax if I take cash out of the account? What are your goals for these accounts, right? Why are you invested in this way? Why are we invested in the market? Why do we have this annuity? Why do we have this life insurance product? Why do you have this long-term care? And what are the rules around it? How does it work? What are your goals for growth here, right? What's your expected return needed to meet these goals? So if some of your goals are to grow your money, saying that you want to grow your money is a fantastic thing, but are we growing it 3% or are we growing it 15%? And why? Why are you growing at 15%? Are you growing at 15% because you can, because the market's going crazy? Or are you trying to get 15% because you can be a little bit more risky and you need some more growth? Like what's the reason behind the scenes, right? We're not just getting growth to get growth. There's no point in that. Do your beneficiaries know where everything is? So that's kind of back to number one. Maybe it should be listed somewhere. Do you need a will? Do you need a trust? Where are these things listed so that your money, if you don't tell someone that your money is waiting for them at Charles Schwab or waiting at TD Ameritrade or wherever, it will just sit in the account, and eventually they'll find out that you died, and it'll go to the state, and it'll go just to the records of the state and sit there until someone claims it. That really is what happens. So your beneficiaries do have to know where all the money is, or they don't even know where to start searching. Do you have a plan for probate, right? So are your accounts, the properties that you own, are they going to go through the probate system? Because that's easily 6 or 9 months, and that's thousands of dollars to attorneys. It's a public process, so anyone can see all the assets that you had when you were alive. It's a very arduous process. All right, so I'm sure you want to know a little bit more about us and how we work and why we're different. And you'll probably learn some things you've never learned before. So this is really what engaging with us looks like. So the first thing that we do is we have a discovery meeting. So the first thing that we ask, and I really would love to hear this from you, what would you like to feel when it comes to your money? what happens a lot, there's a lot of emotion with money, right? We're in like fear. Sometimes we're in fear mode. Sometimes we're in greed mode. Sometimes we're in anxiety and we're nervous about the volatility, right? There's a lot of feelings that comes with money because money can provide us stability and provide us comfort, right? But I also want to know what your goals and your dreams and your desires are. Like some people want to start a business in retirement. You want to work part-time. You want to rock babies at the hospital as a volunteer. There's so many cool things you can do in your retirement. So how can we help you do that? Or maybe you're a, I want to sit on the beach with a Mai Tai person. I totally respect that as well. And we want to help you accomplish those things. So we want to learn a lot about you in that first discovery meeting. And then we come back and we look for some clarity. So what are some of the obstacles that are standing between where you are now and all these dreams and goals and desires that you have? What are some of the obstacles there and how can we address them together? And so we go through kind of an analysis portion where we say, we see these things as being potential obstacles. Do you agree with us? Do you think it's an obstacle? Is it something that you want to address? Is it something you're comfortable with and you have a plan you haven't talked to us about? That's a great meeting to really get on the same page. Then we go into the design and we say, great, we agree that here are some obstacles. So here's our suggestion. Paradigm's going to come to the table and say, listen, these are some things that we can do together to really, really meet those needs that are going to help you accomplish those goals. Is this something that you're interested in for the long term and creating this long lasting retirement goal for you? And then we're launching, right? So let's launch you into success. You're always going to be a client. We're going to be in business for decades and decades. We love what we do. But there's a period where we say, okay, let's put this plan in action. Let's implement this thing. Let's use the momentum to create a great plan. We're going to get your legal documents in order, all your investments in order, your insurance. We constantly hosting client events that we'd love to see you, hopefully see you in person sometime. We'd love to meet you then. Continued education that we'll invite you to if you want to learn more about a certain topic, and really creating that lifelong relationship because we're going to be in touch at least yearly, if not twice a year, to make sure that everything's going according to plan. All right, so what is up next? Here's some 3 things that you can do to kick it up with your wealth. So number 1, this is incredibly important. I love this, incredibly important. Decide that now is the time that you want to create the clarity you need around your money. Now's the time to get clear about it, right? You don't have to go one more day and be nervous. You don't have to go one more day and be scared about what retirement looks like and if your money is going to last long enough. You can get some clarity. So, of course, I'm going to invite you to schedule that 15-minute strategy call with us because we do start with getting to know you in that first 15-minute meeting. And we're going to be honest with you. These are some ways we think we can help you and we'd love to continue on this relationship, or we're not sure we can help you, or we're not sure you might need our help at this stage. And we're going to be honest with you in that phone call. But please feel free to come to that phone call with your questions, your concerns. You talked about this on the webinar and I didn't really get it and I want to talk to you more about it. That's exactly what that meeting is for. So, but deciding that you deserve clarity is so important because you do, right? You don't have to continue to walk into retirement and the next year of investing and savings. You don't know why you're saving. You don't know why you're investing. You don't know if your money is going to last. You don't know how you're going to take care of yourself, right? You don't have to continue to live that way if you don't want to. And you can decide to have some clarity now. All right, I'm going to give you some more questions. As you can tell, I'm someone who loves to push the envelope and make you think about this a little bit. And the reason that I am posing these questions to you is because it's so important that when we establish a relationship, that your opinion matters so much to me. Your opinion matters so much to Tom and matters to all of our partners because we're going to design something that's so personal to you. So what we give are some of these lead up questions so that you have time to think about it before our meeting, so that you can come to us with having these opinions and then we can figure out how to get that accomplished for you. So here's how we can face what's next without fear. It might be time to have some conversations with your family about what you want. And so here's some let's make some of those decisions now while we're in a good mindset and we're logical and we can use our logical brain and our emotions and we're looking to the future and we're excited about our retirement. Let's make those decisions now before some things happen. Now you're vulnerable and you're in fear mode, and that's how you're making those decisions, right? So here's a list of questions. Again, feel free to take a picture of this slide, write them down, whatever works for you. But here's some things to start off your conversation. Number one, what's our plan for long-term care? Am I insured for this? Maybe you already have something that works. I would love to review any current insurance that you have. And I do it all the time. I look at someone's insurance policy and I go, this is great. We don't need to touch this at all. Congratulations, you got a great policy. I say that all the time. So feel free to bring me any policies that you have and I'll just confirm, here's the details, here's how it works. This is a great policy. Hope you enjoy. All right, the next thing is, what's our plan if you pass away before I do or vice versa? What's the plan? What's going to happen to my assets? How much is going to go through probate? Is it going to go through probate? Do I have a will? Do I have a trust? Am I going to get both? If one of you passes and you're married, you're not going to get both Social Security benefits. The smaller benefit's going to go away and you're going to be on one benefit. How does that affect your monthly bills? Can you still afford all of your expenses on that kind of income? Do we have a way to build a reliable stream of income, right? Because retirement is so income based. If you have that steady stream of income coming in, you're going to be doing really well if you keep your expenses under that, right? As long as the money's coming in, income's here, expenses are here, we're doing pretty well on a monthly basis. So do you have enough reliable streams of income to meet all of your needs in retirement? Do we know how much we're going to need to feel comfortable retiring? So is there a certain number you're trying to save to? We want our nest egg to be this size. We want to have this much in savings. We want to have this much invested. I want to be this year, what are you waiting for? What's going to make you feel really good about retiring? How long do we want to manage our business? So we do work with business owners. If you're a business owner and you're thinking, my business is going to be my big payday to retire, what does that really mean? Are you selling to a family member? Are you selling to a third party? Do you want to continue to stay on as a silent managing partner? Do you want to stay on the board? There's lots of ways to exit a business. So if you're someone that has a business and you're not quite sure how to exit, starting to have those conversations are great. And I have some more questions around that can help you make those decisions as well. All right, so that's really what we're going to leave you with. Lots of questions, lots of things to think about. Thank you so much for being here. We absolutely love this workshop, this webinar, working with you, working with these kinds of clients. Only 37% of women work with a financial advisor, and we think that's why you're here, right? Because you want to be someone who has a third party, who has someone that's looking out for your best interest. And that's really what we do at Paradigm, is connect you with the services that you need, help you make those decisions so that for the long term, you fully understand your money, you fully understand your plan, and you're very confident. You're part of the 12% who is very confident in their retirement. So feel free to put any questions in the chat. We will hang out for a little bit. And feel free to schedule a call because we would love to talk to you, get any of your questions, comments, feedback, and get to know you more. We can't wait to get to know you more. So.
Yeah, thanks for being on, everybody. We really appreciate it. We're going to hang out here for just a few moments. Again, if you have any questions, you can just type those in the chat. Again, that's why we have that 15-minute phone call for you to click that link, and then you can check out our calendar for the next 2 weeks, and you can see when we're available to meet with you. And if a time on there doesn't really work or pan out, you need to meet in the evenings. Maybe you need to meet on the weekend. We can accommodate you. Just let us know. Shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to help you out. So thanks for being on the phone call today, and we're looking forward to talking to you guys. Take care. Oh, we got one last question. Do you simply need...
That's a good question. Typically the best way to receive, yeah, great question, Denise. Typically to receive the specific amount that you're entitled to, that's a great place to start at the Social Security Department, which I know is not a fun waiting time to hold. But for those more, to go on and just receive your benefits specifically, going through ssa.gov is the easiest way to do that, as I'm sure it sounds like you're familiar with. Or online determine if you're eligible. But yes, if you could have that social security number and then actually talk to one of the officers, that's going to be your best bet for finding that divorce benefit. So yeah, thank you. We'd love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, if you need copies of the questions that we have in the prior slide, a lot of people ask us for those. We'd love to send that to you as well. Just thinking ahead. Good question. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.